She slammed the door right in my face, yelling, "You're not welcome here." I didn't flinch. Just gave a quiet nod and turned around. Walked away like it didn't tear me up inside. A month later, they were the ones calling, crying. Funny how that works. But I still remember that moment clear as day, my mom's voice slicing through the air, full of bitterness and finality. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I just turned my back and left. The night air hit me as I stepped off their porch, cool and sharp, almost like it knew what just happened. I felt this pressure in my chest, years' worth of rejection pressing down. But I wasn't falling apart this time. No more crumbling in front of them. For as long as I could remember, I was the odd one out. The one they only remembered when something needed fixing or paying for. Celebrations? I never made the guest list. But my older brother Mark? He was their shining star. He was the one who could do no wrong, handsome, smooth-talking, successful, at least according to them. He was always the center of their world. And me? I was just a reminder of what they wished I wasn't. And now it was official. My own mother had turned her back on me completely. I made it to my car, sat down, and just stared at the dashboard for a while. No tears. No anger. Just this strange, quiet feeling like a weight had finally slipped off my shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, that door slamming shut behind me was the best thing that ever happened. I turned the key, started the engine, and drove off without so much as a glance in the rearview mirror. No plan. No idea what came next. I'd spent so many years chasing approval, bending over backward just to feel like I mattered. And for what? Nothing but scraps. Driving away, past all the familiar places from my childhood, it hit me, it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like escape. Truth is, my parents only kept me around when I was useful. If they needed help covering a bill, I was the first call. If something broke in the house, I was the fix-it guy. And when they wanted an audience for Mark's latest brag, that's when I got an invite. But real love? Real support? That was never on the table. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there. My mom's tone had shifted from tired to disgusted. It started subtle. A condescending remark here. A jab about how I wasn't going anywhere while Mark was supposedly building an empire. Then it got worse. I stopped getting invited to family gatherings. I found out through Facebook that they threw Mark a birthday party, and I hadn't even gotten a text. But the breaking point came last week. I had just gotten off a grueling shift when my mom called. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. "Hey sweetheart," she said, in that syrupy tone she only ever used when she wanted something. "We need a little favor." I already knew where it was headed. "We're helping Mark with a down payment on a house," she continued, "and we're just a little short. Only a few thousand. You'd be helping your brother out so much." I tightened my grip on the phone. "You mean the same Mark who makes six figures and never lifts a finger to help you or Dad with anything?" She sighed like I was being the unreasonable one. "It's different. He has a future, David. He's starting a family. He needs stability. You don't have those kinds of responsibilities." That hit harder than I expected. They didn't just favor him, they saw him as a worthwhile investment. Me? I was the backup plan. So I said no. And just like that, the mask came off. Before I could even finish my sentence, she was unloading, calling me selfish, ungrateful, a disappointment. She said things she couldn't ever take back, even if she wanted to. And now, a week later, there she was, screaming at me from the front door, telling me to get lost. So for the first time ever, I did exactly what they told me to. I left. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in my tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence settle around me. No more guilt-tripping phone calls. No more feeling like a tool they picked up when it suited them. I figured I'd feel empty. But weirdly enough, I didn't. I felt lighter. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. I was done. Done waiting on a family that never really wanted me. Done hoping they'd suddenly see me as enough. I turned off my phone for the first time in years. Not just silenced it, powered it off. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for another "can you help us out" message. Instead, I started building something for myself. A real life, without them in it. First thing I tackled was my finances. For years, I'd been draining my savings to help them. Always thinking if I just gave a little more, maybe they'd care a little more. That was over. I checked my accounts and, for once, I started planning for my own future, not theirs. I threw myself into work. Picked up extra shifts, not because they needed the money, but because I had goals now. My own goals. And I started reconnecting with people I'd put on the back burner. Friends I hadn't called in years. Co-workers who always had my back. People who actually gave a damn about me. The first person I reached out to was Jake, an old buddy I hadn't talked to in ages. "Man, I thought you fell off the face of the earth," he laughed. "Where've you been?" "Caught up in family stuff," I said, being honest for once. "But I'm done with that now." He didn't press. Just said, "Good. You needed to be." That was the start of something better. Over the next few weeks, I kept rebuilding. My days no longer revolved around waiting to be needed. I hit the gym. I made real plans. Plans I wasn't going to cancel because my parents suddenly decided I was useful again. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. I thought that was the end of the story. But then, my phone rang. A number I knew by heart. My mother's. The same woman who told me I wasn't welcome in her house. I just stared at the screen for a while. My gut told me something had gone wrong. I thought about letting it ring out. Let it go to voicemail. But something told me this wasn't one of their usual guilt trips. So I picked up. Her voice cracked through the line, trembling and raw, nothing like the cold, harsh tone she used the last time. "David, please. We need you." I didn't say anything. Just waited. Then I heard my father's voice in the background, strained and weak. "It's Mark," he said. He screwed us, David. We don't know what to do." And honestly? I nearly laughed. Of course he did. Let me know when you're ready for the next part, or if you want any section tweaked further. The golden child. That's who he was to them. The one they bet everything on: trust, pride, money, all of it. They chose him. Always him. And they made sure I knew it. And now? He'd finally done it. Turned his back on them. Still, I didn't say a word. Just let the silence stretch out, nice and uncomfortable. Made them fill it. My mom was crying now. We gave him everything, David. Everything. And he drained us. Wiped out our savings. Talked us into co-signing a loan, and then he just left. He won't answer our calls. He moved out of state. He's gone. I just blinked. Mark? Mr. Perfect? Mr. Can Do No Wrong? Gone. Honestly, I couldn't tell if I was shocked or not. Looking back, Mark had always been slick. Real smooth talker. Manipulative as hell too. He could get whatever he wanted, then leave the mess for everyone else to deal with. That was his pattern. I just never thought they'd be the ones holding the bag in the end. My dad cleared his throat. Hated asking for help, especially from me. But he looked tired. Beaten down. We need money, David. We're behind on everything. The house, the car, we could lose it all. I leaned back in my chair, letting their words settle. For years, they treated me like I was just some extra in the background. Like I didn't matter. Like I could be tossed aside any time they wanted. And now here they were, crawling back. Hoping I'd save them. The irony almost made me laugh. I took a breath, calm as could be, and said, "I can't help you." Silence. Then my mom's voice, shaky, panicked. "What do you mean you can't? We're your parents, David. We raised you." I let out a long exhale. "No, Mom. You raised Mark. You tolerated me. And now you want me to clean up his mess?" My dad muttered something under his breath, but I didn't care. "You made your choice," I said. "You picked him. Every single time. Now you can live with it." My mom was sobbing now. My dad started cussing under his breath. I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I just hung up the phone. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Now, I'll admit part of me expected the guilt to come flooding in. They trained me for years to believe that being part of this family meant sacrificing everything. That loyalty meant putting their needs above mine. That I owed them. But this time? Nothing. No guilt. Just peace. I turned off my phone and leaned back, staring up at the ceiling. They had built their entire world around Mark. Gave him everything, while I was expected to scrape by and say thank you for the crumbs. And now? The golden boy had left them with nothing. I went on with my day. Ignored the wave of missed calls that followed. My parents, random relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all begging me to come to my senses. By nightfall, I got a message from an unknown number. You happy now? You think this makes you better than me? I stared at it and chuckled. That was so Mark. No apology. No taking responsibility. Just anger, because he knew I wasn't stepping in to fix it this time. I let myself enjoy that little moment of clarity. Then I typed one word. Yes. And I blocked his number. The next morning, I heard a knock at the door. I sighed, already knowing who it was. Threw on a shirt, walked over, and opened up. And there they were, my parents. Standing on my porch, looking like they'd aged 10 years overnight. My mom's eyes were red and puffy. My dad, the man who used to walk around like he owned the world, looked scared. Actually scared. I crossed my arms, leaned against the doorframe. What do you want? My mom reached for me, but I stepped back. David, please, she whispered. We didn't know. We didn't think Mark would do this to us. I let out a short, bitter laugh. You didn't think? Really? The same Mark who's never faced a single consequence in his life? The same guy who's been using people since he could talk? My dad clenched his jaw. This isn't the time to lecture us. Then why are you here? I asked. They didn't answer. Because deep down, we all knew why they weren't here for me. They weren't here to make things right. They were here because they had no one else. I sighed. I spent my whole life waiting for you to love me the way you loved him, I said. But now I get it. I was never your first choice. I was just a safety net. My mom broke down crying again. My dad looked off to the side, like he couldn't face me. I stood tall. Steady. Go home. Figure it out. Because I'm done. And before they could get another word out, I shut the door in their faces. I stood there a minute, just listening. My mom was still sobbing. My dad muttering something under his breath, probably blaming me for not falling in line like usual. But I didn't open that door. After a few minutes, I heard a car door slam. Then silence. They were gone. And for the first time in my life, I had shut them out completely. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. And I meant it. I walked back into the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat at the table. Just another morning. No guilt. No second guessing. Just peace. They'd figure something out. They always did when it came to cleaning up after Mark. Maybe they'd run crying to the rest of the family, spinning some sob story about how I abandoned them. Maybe they'd sell the house, move into something smaller. Maybe, just maybe, they'd finally realize that the son they worshipped had left them with nothing. But whatever came next, that was their road to walk. Not mine. I was free. And I wasn't looking back. The days that followed were quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. No phone calls dripping with guilt. No text messages begging for money. No weight pressing down on my chest the moment I opened my eyes. I thought maybe I'd feel lonely. Maybe I'd regret it. But the truth? I felt lighter. Like I could finally breathe. I stopped living for them. Stopped pouring myself out just to keep them happy. I dove into work. Started saying yes to things I used to put off because I was too drained to care. I hit the gym again, something I hadn't done in ages. Reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with while playing damage control for my family's constant chaos. And for the first time, I started planning my future. Not just surviving day to day, waiting for the next crisis. Then, a few weeks later, I got a message. It was from my aunt, my mom's older sister. I heard what happened. I just wanted to say, I understand why you did what you did. And I just sat there, staring at that message, feeling something settle in my chest. Maybe I wasn't crazy after all. Maybe someone finally saw the truth. And honestly, I didn't blame her. I stared at the screen for a moment, surprised. My extended family had always kept quiet when it came to the way my parents treated me. Neutral, silent, like it wasn't their place to get involved. They never spoke up. Never called my parents out. So why now? I hesitated, fingers hovering over the keys before finally replying, "Thanks. But why are you telling me this now?" A few minutes later, her message came through. "Because your parents are telling everyone you abandoned them. That you owe them." But I know the truth. I just sat there, staring at her words. And what hit me wasn't anger. Wasn't even sadness. It was relief. Because for the first time, someone in my family actually saw me. And they didn't think I was the bad guy for walking away. I read her message again, slower this time. For years, my parents had worked overtime controlling the story. They'd told anyone who would listen that I was ungrateful, that I was difficult, that I was the problem child who could never live up to their precious golden boy, Mark. And even now, after everything that happened, they were still out there, spinning the same tired lies. But this time, it wasn't working. I typed back, "What exactly have they been saying?" Her response came quick. "That you turned your back on them. That you left them struggling after all they sacrificed for you. That you're selfish, heartless, and ungrateful." I let out a short laugh. Of course. That sounded exactly like them. I asked, "And do people believe it?" This time, it took her a little longer to reply. "Some do. But not everyone. Mark's burned a lot of bridges. And more folks are starting to see your parents for who they really are." That part hit deeper than I expected. For so long, I felt like I was shouting into a void, trying to convince myself, and maybe the world, that I wasn't the villain in the story my parents kept rewriting. But now, people were finally catching on. "Thanks for telling me," I replied. "But honestly, I don't care what they say anymore." And for once, that wasn't just something I said to sound strong. It was the truth. I put my phone down and took a deep breath. For years, I'd lived in their shadow. Always the overlooked one. Always expected to pick up the pieces they left behind. Even after I cut ties, part of me was still bracing for the guilt to sneak in, like maybe I'd start to feel bad, start to doubt myself, maybe even go back. But not now. Now, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. All my life, I was told that family means everything. That no matter what, you stick by them. But I've learned that family isn't supposed to feel like a prison. It isn't supposed to drain you dry. And that's exactly what they did to me for years. But I wasn't their backup plan anymore. I wasn't their emotional punching bag or their emergency wallet. I wasn't theirs, and that drove them crazy. A few days later, they tried to pull me back in. It started with a text from my mom. "David, please just talk to us. We're struggling. We need you. Family takes care of each other." I ignored it. A few hours later, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the flood of texts. One after the other. "Mom, we're going to lose the house if we don't get help. Please, we don't have anyone else. Dad, you think you're better than us now? That you can just abandon your own parents after everything we did for you?" I stared at the screen, shaking my head. Everything they did for me? Like ignoring me while Mark got every ounce of attention and praise? Like calling me a failure? Like leaning on me for years for emotional and financial support while they built up Mark like he was royalty? The more I read, the clearer it got, they weren't sorry. They didn't regret how they treated me. They regretted losing access to me. They didn't want to fix anything. They just wanted the help they'd come to expect. But that door was closed. Permanently. The next morning, there was a voicemail from my dad. I could hear the edge in his voice, trying to sound calm but laced with anger. "David, this is your last chance. If you don't help us, you're out of this family. We'll tell everyone you abandoned us. That you left your own parents to suffer. You'll be alone. Is that what you want?" I laughed. Out loud. Alone? I'd been alone my whole life when it came to them. This wasn't a punishment. I'd already walked away, and I wasn't looking back. I deleted the voicemail without even blinking. Thought maybe that would be the end of it. That they'd finally get the message. But 3 days later, another text came in from an unknown number. David, it's me. We need to talk. Mark. I just stared at the screen. Of all people, he was the last one I expected to hear from. I almost didn't reply. But curiosity got the better of me. Me, talk about what? His answer came quick. I screwed up, okay? I know I messed up. But I need your help. I rolled my eyes. Of course. It wasn't an apology. It was damage control. I didn't respond. A few hours later, he tried again. Mark, you think you're better than me now? That you can just sit there and watch mom and dad suffer? You're pathetic. There he was, the real Mark. The moment he realized I wasn't writing in to save him, the fake remorse disappeared. I just smiled, shook my head, and blocked his number. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No anxiety. No dread. No waiting for another guilt trip to sneak in. I was finally free. For so long, I let them define my worth. I spent years trying to prove I deserved love, deserved respect, deserved to be seen just like Mark. But I didn't need their validation. I never had. I'd always been enough. They were just too blind to see it. A week passed. Then, one final message from my mom. David, I don't know what to say anymore. I never thought you'd turn your back on us like this. We needed you. We're your family. But I guess that doesn't mean anything to you. I read it slowly. And for the first time ever, I felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. No guilt. Just peace. I'd waited so long for an apology that was never coming. Waited for them to finally see me. Appreciate me. But they never would. And that was okay. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need anything from them anymore. So I sent one final message: you made your choice a long time ago. Now you get to live with it. Then I blocked her number. That was the last I ever heard from any of them. Maybe they still think I'll come crawling back one day. Maybe they still picture me as the desperate son who'd do anything for their approval. But that version of me is gone. In the months that followed, my life only got better. Without their constant drain on me, I started to thrive at work. I traveled for the first time in years. I reconnected with old friends. Built real, honest relationships, not out of obligation, but out of choice. And most importantly, I finally felt free.